And welcome to the sixth, I believe, podcast of the New Sports Outlaws. I'm Neil. This is Danny, and we are going to take you around the news and notes from our local sports teams and some of the notes from not local sports teams. Danny, how are you today?
Doing well. It's an exciting time coming up now that we're kind of getting over the dog days of August, getting September. So we got some positives and negatives to that. We're both teachers, so we go back to school in September. So that might not be positive, but we have September baseball with both New York teams doing well. We got the football, basketball's in another month, so it's definitely an exciting time to be talking about sports.
I mean, if any of our students eventually find these podcasts, we love all of our students. It has nothing to do with it. It's just the fact of going back to actual work. um, we like to do this because this is not work. This is really fun for us, and we've enjoyed it so far. I know I have, and I've talked to you, and you've told me how much you've enjoyed it. So let's kick it off with something that I haven't enjoyed lately, which is the inconsistency of our New York Yankees. I feel like even before we started the podcast, we were talking in March, and April, and May, and June, and I feel like the same two topics are going to be what we talk about until the Yankees are eliminated from the baseball playoffs, which is Clay Holmes should not be a closer of a team that has a payroll this high, and the Yankee offense goes to sleep far too often outside Judge and Soto, but the rest of the team goes dormant for long periods of time. And it's just not acceptable for a team that has this much resources. They shouldn't be. They shouldn't be. As I wrote down some stats to give you today, Dan. 10th in batting average. They have the second highest payroll. They have the second most wins, but they have the 10th batting average in the league. They also have the 12th hits per game. And to give you a really big picture here is that we are better against teams under 500 than we are against teams. I'm saying we're better against teams that are over 500 than under 500, and it's like by like 5 games. We're 5 games worse.
I wrote it. Yeah. So sub 500 is 24-20. Over 500 is 54-36. So you can look at that a couple different ways. I mean, depending on where we're at in the playoffs. I mean, if we get to the playoffs and we're good, then maybe that's a good thing. But maybe if we lose a division by a game to Baltimore, all of a sudden one of these games that we lost to the National, 2 games to the Nationals, one to the Rockies, White Sox, Tigers, so on and so forth. Yeah. Same stuff. I'm actually, when you brought up that batting average stat, I was actually thinking about last year's. And if you remember, we were actually, I think, the worst or second to worst in the Athletics in batting average. Not sure if you remember, but I believe we were like either, I don't know if it was the AL or the league, that we were the second worst team in batting average for the whole league. And I mean, I know we didn't even make the playoffs, but yeah, 10th is still not really acceptable. And I think this weekend, or this actually not this weekend, this past week against the Nationals showed how deficient on offense we could be when Judge and Soto aren't mashing. I think Soto had a downer of a series. I think he only had a hit versus the Nationals. Judge had a few hits. He still had a good average, but he wasn't hitting homers like he was doing against the Rockies and the Guardians from a couple series before. I think with this September call-ups that I think start tomorrow, or I guess the first, which is on Labor Day, it has a lot to do with
the Martian.
Yeah. I mean, those bottom 2 black holes in our lineup with Alex Verdugo and DJ LeMahieu, it's going to tell you a lot, whether it's Aaron Boone, Brian Cashman, whoever the hell is running things, that whether it's, I don't know if with Anthony Rizzo coming back, if that's like DJ's last hurrah, or we're just going to send Ben Rice down, I guess I'm assuming. I think that's probably the move, I'm assuming. And then Dominguez, that's the one that's right there. I mean, I don't know. Obviously, he should be called up. He's a lot better hitter. He's just as good in the field.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I don't know how you feel about that.
No, I mean, my opinions on that are probably very predictable. I want the Martian up here. I don't care. Put Grisham release him, DFA him. I don't care.
Uh,
Get rid of Grisham. I'm
yeah.
tired of seeing Trent Grisham and his stupid mustache out there and his lackadaisical play. I'm sorry. Goodbye. He's gone because Rizzo's coming back, and I think I'd rather have Rizzo at first base than LeMahieu because I've seen LeMahieu too many times. Boot balls at first base. He's not the glove he used to be, and he's definitely not the bat. He's not the machine anymore. So you want to put LeMahieu and Verdugo on the bench, fine. But I want the Martian out in the outfield. I want Verdugo to get less at bats, and I'm sick and tired of this platoon at catcher. Wells just hit another homer, 2-run homer today. When he's playing, he's good enough to be the cleanup hitter, but when he's not, he's not playing against every single left. Play the kid. Stop with just Trevino stuff. The difference between them is very negligible as far as defensively. Wells and Trevino are both not great defensive catchers. So give me the kid and the offense over the guy who I can't stand, who I think is a flash in the pan anyway.
Yeah, I mean, especially when you think about it, think about game one in a playoff situation where you have Garrett Cole on the mound, and Trevino's been his guy for the past couple of years. You don't want Trevino being. I mean, he's a good catcher. I'm sure he's great with the pitchers, but he's not great with runners on, as you just said before, and he really hasn't shown any ability to hit that much this year. Austin Wells has shown a better ability to throw out runners, and he's definitely a better bat, 100% better bat behind Judge. And they were looking for that guy behind Judge for, I believe, that 2-month stretch where we were struggling. They were putting everybody over there. They were trying everybody at that 4 spot while Stanton was hurt, and they couldn't find anyone. They finally put Wells there. It seems like he's found a home there. So I definitely have to have him in the lineup.
Yep. Just really quick, a couple other things I had that I thought were eye-opening. I heard something on WFAN, and they had heard it on the Yankee broadcast, that the Yankees have lost something like 80% of games when they are losing after the first inning. I just think that is a quitter's mentality. And I gave you the rest of the stats there. And a team who sometimes I think is quitting, but not quitting is the Mets. Went 6-4 in the last 10. They probably needed 7-3 or 8-2. My opinion on the Mets is, and I'm going to get your opinion in a second, is they just waited too long. They were 11 games under 500 earlier in the season. I think that early bad start, and Diaz being super inconsistent this year has really been their undoing. And I pick out Diaz specifically because if you, at the beginning of the season, we're not Met fans, but if at the beginning of the season you had to say, what is the Mets' strongest point of this team? You would have pointed and said, the closer. He might be the best closer in baseball or top 3 closers in baseball. He's not really played like that. He's been very inconsistent. And I think him being so inconsistent is a showing of why they are where they are, where they need to basically run the table to get in the playoffs. They have the 19th overall ERA in the major leagues, and the rest of their stats make them sound like a middle-of-the-road team. They're 12th in batting average, but 5th in home runs. So they have some good numbers. They have some bad numbers. What's your take on the Metropolitans?
So the last couple podcasts we did, I know I've said that they're a roller coaster team, and it's kind of what they've been doing. This last week has been a little actually on the positive side, I think, for them. They played the Diamondbacks and they played the Padres. Those 2 teams had the best record since the All-Star break. They've been extremely hot. And they were on the road. And they split with the Padres, and they took 2 or 3 from the Diamondbacks. So that's pretty good. But, I mean, unfortunately, the Braves have been hotter, or just as hot as they have been. I believe they swept their twin series that they played against the Diamondbacks. I mean, against the Braves swept the Twins while the Mets were playing the Diamondbacks.
Yeah.
And unfortunately for the Mets, they, like you said, they might just be running out of time. They're 3 back, I believe, with 28 to go, I want to say. And they have a key series at the end of the year. At the end of the year, they have a 7-game stretch where they have the Phillies for 4 and the Braves for 3. So actually starting this week, or the end of this week, the weekend, they have to really get that to 2-1 somehow, since they have the White Sox this week, or to go to the weekend. they have to at least sweep, or at least take the series. They have to sweep the White Sox, or at least take the series, and hope that the Phillies take some games from the Braves. Again, it's just been inconsistency. You said Lindor's been carrying the way. He's been doing his best to carry the way. I know he's had a shaky New York time since he's been there, but it seems like this year has been his year. He's probably second in the MVP right now, and
Yeah.
a lot of people are saying maybe with the whole WAR, depending on the stat that you look at, because I think he has a better WAR than Ohtani, I believe. But I know Ohtani I think he's going to get it. He has the 50-50 season going on, which is like unbelievable. He has like between or almost 50-50 home runs and stolen bases. But I think they're staying afloat. They're a 500 team, like I've been saying. It's going to be a roller coaster, but I think they'll fall short towards the end.
Yeah, real quick, my opinion on that MVP race that you were just talking about. The only problem I have with giving it to Otani this year is that if you give it to him this year, how are you going to not give it to him every other year that he plays? Because if he starts pitching next year, what are you going to do? You're going, he pitched and he pitched to a decent ERA and he pitched and hit. So now you got to give it to him every year. If he does average pitching, you're going to have to give it to him every year. If you give it to him this year when he was just a DH, so I mean, yeah, Lindor should be up there as well. But the whole Otani thing, it's if you give it to him when he's just a DH, you're never not going to give it to him.
Yeah. I mean, he's really good at both of them. I mean, he's obviously probably the top 2 or 3 hitter in all of the majors, and he's definitely a upper echelon starter. I mean, I guess there's really no reason you can't give it to him when he's pitching and he's hitting at the same time. I don't disagree with you.
Yeah. All right, so we're going to quickly move over to the NFL. We're going to keep the NFL pretty short today because if you're watching our podcast, we are planning on doing a prediction show in a couple of days after our fantasy draft and getting closer to the NFL season. So a couple headlines we had from the NFL. We had some wide receivers get contract extensions, Ayuk and CeeDee Lamb. And as you being the Dallas fan here, I will let you interject on how you felt about that.
Yeah, so you gotta get him in. As most of these contract disputes tend to happen, they tend to get done eventually. Especially with Jerry Jones, Jerry Jones is saying his thing, CeeDee Lamb saying his thing. They're all going on Instagram saying all this back and forth stuff. Eventually, he got what he wanted. Now he's got to get ramped up, and just hopefully he doesn't get hurt trying to ramp up, or that first week of the year with the soft tissue injuries that have been kind of popping up that are from players that are just ramping up too hard going too hard on their body. So I'm not saying take it light for week 1 against Cleveland, but definitely just get him into the fold and get him going middle of September so he can go the rest of the year.
Yep. And a couple other headlines. Another wide receiver, Hollywood Brown, has basically been ruled out for opening night on Thursday next week. And that's all I had. I think you had one or two that I did not write down. So what else did you have?
Yeah, just some quick things. Michael Thomas, he's suspended for a game from his domestic battery case in the offseason. Hassan Reddick for the Jets. I think that's a bigger one. Just because the Jets are a Super Bowl team or a Super Bowl roster or Super Bowl aspirations. And they need Hassan Reddick, their pass rusher, to be part of their roster. Or, I mean, he's on the roster, but part of their group kind of going on, especially they're on Monday Night Football against the 49ers week 1 of the year. And kind of Hassan Reddick's kind of thinking to himself, if the Jets defense struggles a little bit, that kind of gives him a little momentum or a little, basically a little momentum to kind of get the deal done and maybe kind of get the money that he wants. But he definitely needs to be there if they definitely have Super Bowl aspirations. Trent Williams, same thing. Someone's got in San Francisco, left tackle Brock Purdy. He's got to get protected in order for them to have a chance. There are Super Bowl aspirations as well. And just a quick couple of QB stuff that happened. Russell Wilson, QB1 in Pittsburgh over Justin Fields. and Jacoby Brissett's the number one over Drake May. I think we both are in agreement that Fields and May will probably be taken over probably sometime a little Halloween, at least maybe even before that ish.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't believe in Russell Wilson. I think when we first did our first podcast and we talked about quarterback predictions, I think I said that I thought Tomlin would go with Russell just because he probably views Russell as the more competent ball security quarterback of the two. But don't think there's a question there where Fields is the much more talented quarterback. May is just, hey kid, you're gonna take a beating in the beginning, so we're gonna sit you for a couple weeks. Let Brissett take the beating for a couple weeks, and then you'll be in there. I'm glad that you left me with the Giants to bring up. So we have a couple pieces of the Giants before we sign off tonight. And Adoree Jackson was just brought back into the fold in a 1-year deal. He will immediately become the quarterback number 2 because this team is desperate for secondary help. And he is by far better than any of the kids that have been in camp. I don't care that he was released and let go and has probably lost a step. He will be much better than any of those kids that they've been trying out there for the preseason. And then we have the controversy of the retired number. It's been on WFAN a lot. Should have they let him do it? So here's what the story goes as far as I can follow it. The Giants were okay with giving Malik Neighbors the information for number 1, Ray. Is it Ray Finkel? I can't remember his name. I do remember that he went to Gonzaga, and when he left the Giants for a year or two, he went back to Gonzaga and coached basketball. I knew nothing about this guy. I can't remember his last name at the present second, but I knew nothing about.
No idea. It's all you.
I keep calling him Ray Finkel. I know his first name's Ray. But he wore number 1. He played in the 20s. He was, I think, the first jersey for the Giants to be retired. He may have been the first jersey in the NFL retired. I'm not positive. But the Giants left it up to the family and said, here, neighbors, here's the information for the family. If they approve it, if they say you can do it, then you can do it. All I can say is a lot of people have talked about this guy for the last 2 days. That I've been a Giant fan for 41 years old. So when did I start following football? 7 years old, 8 years old. I've been a Giant fan for almost 35 years, and I've never heard the guy's name. So the fact that
did you even know that number 1 was retired?
No.
Okay. No, I don't think anybody did until this.
Okay, so we are going to sign off in a second here. Just if you are one of our followers that's been watching and you hung through this podcast, like I said, I think it's our 6th podcast because we did the mock draft that we considered our 5th podcast. We are going to have a 7th podcast in a couple of days where we talk about more specifically just the NFL predictions, end of the year awards, maybe some betting information that we like and we've been looking at for the last couple of days. So we will bring that to you then. I thank you for everyone that has watched and stayed with us. Danny, you get the last word.
Yeah, just so next week, definitely tune in. Football predictions. We're going to do win-loss records for Giants and Jets. We'll definitely do some long-term predictions, Giants and Jets, and other prominent names. Get to some NFL like long-term predictions, like over-unders, like passing yards, rushing yards, touchdowns, that type of thing. And definitely get into the football season. Next season is Thursday. At least the season starts on Thursday next week. And just remember, thank you to our listeners. Remember to follow, like, subscribe, Instagram, Facebook, X, YouTube. We definitely appreciate it. Leave some comments, leave some reviews, any questions, any topics that we could cover. We've been more than happy to cover them for you. So until next time, Neil, Danny, this is Danny signing off.